Ever wondered how devices on a network communicate with each other? You're not alone. It's a complex process that involves a key player, the Address Resolution Protocol, or ARP. Picture a bustling city, with information continuously flowing from one point to another, like cars on a highway. This digital city is a network, and the cars? They're packets of data. ARP is like the ultimate GPS, creating a map that guides these packets to their destination. It's a protocol used by the Internet Protocol, commonly known as IP, to map IP network addresses to the hardware addresses used by a data link protocol. Essentially, it connects the virtual and physical aspects of a network, ensuring that communication is seamless and efficient. With ARP, your data doesn't get lost in transit, but reaches its target accurately and swiftly. Stay tuned as we delve deeper into the Address Resolution Protocol and its functioning. So, what is the Address Resolution Protocol? Let's break it down. Picture yourself at a party. You know the name of the person you want to talk to, but you don't know what they look like. What do? You ask around, describing them by their name until someone points them out to you. That's essentially what the Address Resolution Protocol, or ARP, does in a computer network. ARP is a telecommunications protocol used in the Internet Protocol suite. Its job is to map network layer addresses, specifically Internet Protocol (IP) addresses, to link layer addresses like Media Access Control (MAC) addresses. In simpler terms, it's like a directory assistance for computers. When a computer needs to send data to another computer on the same network, it uses ARP to find out the recipient's MAC address. But why does it need the MAC address, you ask? Well, IP addresses are great for routing packets over long distances, like from New York to London. But within a local network, devices identify each other using MAC addresses. These are unique identifiers assigned to network interfaces for communications on the physical network segment. Now, ARP isn't just for IP and MAC addresses. It's been implemented with many combinations of network and link layer technologies. For instance, it's used in DECnet, a proprietary network protocol created by Digital Equipment Corporation, and in Xerox PARC Universal Packet, an early and influential local area network system. But the most common usage of ARP is in conjunction with IPv4. This is because IPv4 uses 32-bit addresses, which are relatively easy to map, and it's still the most widely used version of the Internet Protocol, despite the growing adoption of IPv6. So, to wrap things up, think of ARP as a translator. It helps devices on a network understand each other by translating network layer addresses into link layer addresses. It's a vital part of the Internet Protocol suite, enabling communication between devices on the same network. In short, ARP acts as a translator between IP addresses and MAC addresses. Now that we know what ARP is, let's see how it works. Imagine you're at a party and you want to talk to someone across the room. You know their name, but you can't see their face. What do? You might ask around, "Hey, where's John?" until someone who knows John points him out. This is very similar to how Address Resolution Protocol, or ARP, operates in a network. When a device, like your laptop or smartphone, needs to send a packet of data to another device on the same network, it needs to know the recipient's Media Access Control, or MAC address. This MAC address is a unique identifier, much like a fingerprint, assigned to the network interface of each device. But here's the catch. The sending device may only know the recipient's Internet Protocol, or IP address. In our party scenario, this is like knowing John's name but not recognizing his face. So what does the device do when it knows the IP but not the MAC address? It sends out an ARP broadcast message across the network. This broadcast is essentially a cry for help, asking, "Who has this IP address? Please tell me your MAC address." This message is received by all devices on the network because it's a broadcast. Each device checks the IP address in the ARP request against their own. If the IP address doesn't match, the device simply ignores the request, just like the people at the party who don't know John would shrug and continue their conversation. However, If a device finds that the IP address matches its own, it knows that the ARP request is for it. This device, much like John at the party, responds to the ARP request with its MAC address. It's like John waving across the room and saying, "Hey, I'm over here." The original device, the one that sent the ARP request, then receives this reply containing the needed MAC address. With this information, the device can finally send the packet directly to the recipient device using its MAC address. This entire process is carried out swiftly and seamlessly, allowing devices on a network to communicate efficiently. It's important to remember that ARP only works within the same network. If a device needs to send a packet to a device outside its network, different protocols come into play. But that's a topic for another time. So, ARP essentially helps devices find out who they are talking to on the network. Just like asking around at a party helps you find John, ARP helps your device find the MAC address it needs to send data to the right place. It's a vital part of how our networks function, enabling the smooth communication we rely on every day. But what happens after ARP finds the MAC address? Does it have to do this every time? Well, the answer is no, and that's thanks to a clever system known as the ARP cache. Let's delve a bit deeper. So the Address Resolution Protocol, or ARP, has done its job. It's found the MAC address corresponding to the IP address it was looking for. But instead of discarding that information once it's been used, the device does something rather smart. It stores this information in what we call an ARP cache or ARP table. Think of the ARP cache as a networking notepad. It's a short-term memory bank where the device jots down IP and MAC address pairs it has recently learned. This way, if the device needs to communicate with the same IP address in the future, it doesn't need to send out another ARP request. Instead, it can simply reference its ARP cache, find the MAC address it needs, and get straight to the task at hand. This cache isn't infinite, of course. It's a bit like your browser history. Over time, entries that haven't been used in a while are dropped to make room for new ones. The exact time an entry stays in the cache can vary, but it's usually around a few minutes to a few hours. And if a device sends out an ARP request and gets a reply, but there's already an entry for that IP address in its ARP cache, the device simply updates the existing entry with the new MAC address. This use of an ARP cache significantly reduces the need for ARP broadcast messages. It's a bit like having the phone number of your favorite pizza place saved in your phone. You don't need to look it up every time you want a pizza. You just go straight to your contacts and dial the number. By reducing the number of ARP requests sent out, the ARP cache helps keep network traffic to a minimum. This leads to a more efficient use of network resources, which in turn makes your network run more smoothly. And that, in a nutshell, is the ARP cache. This process makes the communication on the network more efficient. Let's quickly recap what we've learned about the Address Resolution Protocol. This has been quite a journey into the world of network communication, and there's no better way to bring it all together than revisiting the key points we've discussed. First off, we dove into the core of network communication, setting the stage for our discussion on ARP. We discovered that the Address Resolution Protocol is a vital procedure that allows devices on a network to communicate effectively. It's the bridge that facilitates communication between different layers of a network model, particularly the Internet layer and the link layer. Then we explored the workings of the Address Resolution Protocol. We learned that it's essentially a question-answer game, where a device inquires, "Who has this IP address?" and waits for the device that owns it to respond, "I do." This is done using ARP requests and responses, which are broadcast and unicast respectively. This way, ARP helps devices find the physical address, also known as the MAC address, associated with a given IP address. We also delved into the concept of ARP cache, an efficient mechanism that stores recent ARP responses to save time and resources. By keeping a record of IP to MAC address mappings, it reduces the need for repeated ARP requests. It's a little like having a handy address book that prevents you from asking for the same information over and over again. But remember, like any system, ARP has its vulnerabilities. It's susceptible to ARP spoofing, where a malicious actor can send falsified ARP messages to disrupt network communication. But fear not, there are security measures in place to mitigate this risk. In essence, ARP is a fundamental part of network communication, a silent hero working behind the scenes to ensure that data gets to where it needs to go. It's a testament to the intricate and fascinating world of networking, a field that never ceases to amaze with its complex mechanisms and elegant solutions. And that's it. The Address Resolution Protocol, a vital cog in the wheel of network communication. Thanks for tuning in.